Welcome to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So, a lot is going on, obviously, in the world of sports. Jeez. So, this is being recorded on a Friday. My Knicks hung on by the skin of their teeth after some dramatics again by Jalen Brunson be able to show up and show out, and he was named clutch player of the NBA for the 2024-2025 season. And did he ever deliver? I think he scored like 12 points in the fourth quarter, eight, maybe it was 10 points in crunch time with 5 minutes to go. So he literally put us on our back, and we're able to squeeze out a 2-point win over the Pistons. The Knicks are up 2-0. 2-1 now. After Pistons got game two, they almost pulled that one out, but good to see Karl Anthony Towns kind of show up. But there's some crazy series that are happening right now. The Denver and Clippers series, I didn't think we would see the energy we're seeing now, but it's been absolutely amazing. This one might go seven, no question about it. We get Jimmy Butler back in the in the Warriors series against the Rockets. That one also could go seven, and I saw that one happening. But yeah, it's a great run of sports. The draft was yesterday. First round, poor Shedeur Sanders falling out of the first round. A couple other elite defensive ends not getting drafted for various reasons. So it'll be interesting day two. But enough about sports, and we're going to get into special topic to me. Some people saw my Instagram post. I was very excited. That happened on Wednesday. What we're going to do now, a Method Man appreciation post, because I ran into Method Man in Toronto Eaton Center on Wednesday. So let me break it down for you. Who is Method Man? Some of my listeners, and again, this is available on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, it's also available on YouTube. So if you're watching live in the flesh, I got my Knicks hat on. Shout out to Beto Art. I am wearing my OG Wu-Tang t-shirt that he created with all the caricatures of the individual Wu-Tang members. Shout out to ODB, rest in peace. But they're all here. So let's talk about Method Man specifically, and how did I meet him? So Method Man is one of the Wu-Tang members. Many people say he's like the Michael Jackson of Wu-Tang. He is the most transcendent member of the clan. But let's do a deeper dive into who Method Man is and all of those good things. So Method Man, his real name is Clifford Smith Jr., born March 2nd, 1971. So he's a few years older than me. Stage name is Method Man. Born and raised in Long Island, Clifton, Long Island specifically, and the Park Hill section, otherwise known as Killer Hill. So y'all now kind of get that reference from Method Man. And he grew up in Hempstead. He loved playing lacrosse, of all things, as I started doing some research. But we know him as the rapper known as Method Man. Method Man has won a Grammy for his song "I'll Be There For You, All I Need to Get By" with Mary J. Blige, and a couple different mixes. There's the RZA version, Puffy Combs, Sean Combs, whatever you want to call him. We don't love talking about him on this podcast for all the allegations, but they flipped the beat, and that's the one that truly helped win a Grammy. I think it was the 38th Grammy award ceremony. So best rap performance by a duo or a group, and him and Mary J. Listen to that song is relevant today, and that was released. I want to tell you, it's like 1994 is when that 1994. Ultimately, the remix was done in 1995. Method Man's album. When we talk about the Wu-Tang came out. The original first group album, Entered the 36 Chambers, came out November 8th, 1993. Method Man's first album, came out in it was in 94. Let me just see if on my quick reference here, do I see the actual date of when Method Man's album dropped. Tikal dropped 94. The actual date, November 15th. So almost literally a year to the day, Method Man's album dropped called Tikal. The lead single for that particular album was Bring the Pain. A couple remixes that done. It was launched a couple weeks before October 25th was when Bring the Pain came out. Then some very unique tracks, or probably the most unique track on the entire album is Release Your Delf. Sounds more different than we've ever heard from any album. So this was like essentially like the second solo Wu-Tang release that had come out. The first one we have was before Wu-Tang existed, and that was GZA's Words of the Genius. Then we got to Cal in 94. Then we got the Return of the 36 Chambers, the third by ODB. And then we got my personal favorite of the entire catalog, and probably I would tell you Iron Man / Supreme Clientele is the next two, along with what came later that year, which is Liquid Swords, but only built for Cuban Links. If I kind of just get to the point, is the album that came out in 95. So 95 was a very special year for Wu-Tang members. But Method Man, post Enter the Wu-Tang, the 36 Chambers, really set things off for the Wu-Tang Clan ultimately, because essentially one of the first couple singles or songs that we ever heard from Wu, one was obviously Protect Your Neck, but the other song that came out was Method Man. And that is kind of really the song that helped take Wu-Tang by storm. And now he's the only one featured, where Protect Your Neck had literally all the members on the track. So really this transcended, Method Man now signing a deal. He signed with Def Jam Records, and then worked with Elektra. His solo album then comes out. He wins the Grammy. He also does some, he was one that loved to work with other artists, whether RZA approved or not. And many, I think if you unpack it, RZA did not approve. He wanted to keep everything in-house. So as I started to kind of, roll back and do some of the things and I had already seen it. I said it on the podcast previously because I had done some research on artists, my favorite featured artists, and was kind of it's the Mount Rushmore episode. So you hadn't got to check out. It actually released today, the one I did with Isaac, and we talk about the Mount Rushmore are feature artists, are artists that are on a feature is probably a better way of saying it. And I would say, arguably, Method Man is the best feature artist we've ever seen. And from Method Man being on Goodfellas, Method Man snuck off and was able to be on the track called The What, arguably one of the top 3 songs that are on Ready to Die, Notorious B.I.G.'s, aka Biggie Smalls' debut album. Some other things that he was on Tupac's album, All Eyes on Me. That's the song that was on with Dog Pound and Redman, and ultimately Inspector Deck's verse is so fire that Tupac actually cut it off. That's the lore that is around that song. He definitely made appearances on Muddy Waters. He was obviously a prominent member on 36 Chambers. And then when they did the sequel or the double album, which was Wu-Tang Forever, he's all over it. So Method Man has made this transcendent and such an impactful performance and collection of albums that he's been on with as a group. But he's really when we ask someone to spit a 16, just call Meth. Meth is going to give you some heat that you probably may not be ready for, and some of the stuff is unbelievable. So he's gone on to do some soundtracks. Like I think there's a track on Hit 'Em High, which was on the Space Jam, Michael Jordan's movie that he did with Warner Brothers and Bugs Bunny and Friends. That's on with LL, Busta, and Be Real along with Coolio. He was also on the 4321 song that he ultimately did with LL. It was on the Phenomenon album that released, I want to tell you, like, was like 97. And this then proceeded to lead to 98, where he did Tikal 2000 Judgment Day, kind of on the heels of Terminator and Judgment Day and all the things that were going on with that. So, some great guest appearances on there. He had Mobb Deep, he had Redman, he had Lisa Left Eye Lopez, he had Chris Rock, he had D'Angelo, some brief cameos from, even Janet Jackson and Donald Trump. I don't know if you would want that later, but ultimately the album did go platinum. Although the reviews were very mixed. Some people love it. I think I love songs as a collection of an album. I don't love it as nearly as much as I love Tikal. Tikal, like, I literally played Tikal on the way to this studio session today, and I was smiling from ear to ear. From Release Your Delf to All I Need to Meth vs. Chef. The album is amazing, but it doesn't get the credit that it truly deserves. I think then in 99, it's like Method Man created an entire new career for himself because he partnered with Redman to create the Blackout album, and with some support from Redman's friends, EPMD, kind of, you could feel definitely influenced. It was such a mix of two different people. So 1212, Serial Killer, the obviously the famous Rockweiler. It sounds like these guys have been making albums for years, and they truly sound like two peas in a pod. And then ultimately we get How High is the song that was on the How High soundtrack. There's many different versions of this song, but that's the other standout cut that is on this album. So, ultimately, this is an unbelievable project. We ultimately do get a sequel in the Blackout 2. Now, it sounds different. It's almost literally as enjoyable. I remember when I was listening to the Blackout, I actually was on a trip in LA, and that's when I first heard the album. In 99, was listening to it on a CD player, not an MP3 player, not a Walkman. I had graduated from Walkman to CD player, and it's every time I think of that album, I think of LA, and I think of LA, and I think of that album. I just spent so much time listening to it and really trying to take in the city for the very first time. So much so that I enjoyed myself, and I saw a couple basketball games and saw an NBA game. That I ended up going back to LA literally the following year. Was also the spark of the Raptors. And really, it was Vince Carter that got me to go back to LA and see the Raptors play in person. So as we transition into the 2000s, we got the W and Iron Flag. These albums really didn't resonate nearly as well as they probably could have or should have. But they did receive platinum plaques for these albums, but they're pale in comparison to where we were with 36 Chambers. Like, 36 Chambers was like the thriller of everything that was created for Wu-Tang, and other albums as a collective came together. Now, how you want to rank the individual albums, I think there's the upper tier, which is only built for Cuban links. Supreme Clientele. I like Iron Man as well, and then, as I mentioned, Liquid Swords. And then I think there's a tier below, which is Return to the 36 and Tikal. And I almost would put Tikal in very close, almost a half step behind that, following those top three. But I think when we then go to Method Man's third solo album, and I think that launched in 2004. Does What's Happening is my favorite song on that album. He does it with Busta Rhymes. That one goes gold, and then people start to really question does Method Man pick good beats? Does Method Man should he be doing a solo album? Because we got such a great album with him on, obviously, as part of Wu-Tang, and then Blackout was so good. Like, can Method Man really create an album? And I know one of the executive producers we heard is P. Diddy or Sean Combs or whatever you want to call him. And then, but he had a big hand in what that album sounded like. And ultimately, Meth was just not happy of what that project, kind of came to be. And we all know Puff knows how to sell records, but really, Method Man was not happy with the finished product. So fast forward to 2006, then we get 421 the day after, and then we had Mathematics, we had Mr. Porter as a part of it, Eric Sermon, Scott Storch, and Havoc all helped to produce it. But there were issues with the label, and that really didn't allow this album to kind of take off. Saigon ended up being on the album. We definitely got Inspector Deck, but it just didn't resonate. The song actually, New York, New York, which leaked afterwards, was actually as popular as anything that was on this album. So then, ultimately fast forward into 2008, and yes, we got the Blackout 2 that was released literally at the end of the year. But then it ultimately got pushed. It was supposed to launch in December. It was December 8th or 9th was the official release date, but we didn't get it till 2009. And I remember at that time I had just moved to Vancouver. I was living my first full year there, and man, did the Blackout 2 ever pick me up. We got some great production from Pete Rock. I want to tell you that that Socrates was also had a hand in that album. And obviously Eric Sermon and Rockweiler also helped, cited pieces to that. But the album was, I would tell you, not as good as the original, but still outstanding. And I think it really satisfied a need for people that wanted to hear more Method Man. So fast forward now, as we move forward, we end up getting, more tours and more appearances from Method Man. But there was an album that was being talked about called Crystal Meth, but that never ultimately dropped. And maybe we get another Method Man project, but who knows? But I think what you have to really appreciate that Method Man has done so many other things outside just the world of hip hop and rap. So he's an accomplished actor from the 90s. He was on Oz. He was on The Wire. He was the nephew from Prop Joe that was named Cheese. He was on Twilight, and not the Twilight Zone and CSI. So he's had multiple different areas that he's been a part of. He was part of a pilot with Redman on MTV called Stung. He has lots of times that he's been in a movie. We talked about How High. Soul Plane was another one. He's been on Law and Order's SUV, which is a very popular show. He also transcended, and Def Jam helped with the partners that ultimately helped create a video game, and it's one of my favorite games. It's Fight for New York, and essentially you're a character. You create a character and you fight rapper. You fight Redman, you fight Method Man, you fight Ludacris, you fight Mobb Deep. It's an amazing game, and just to have Method Man in it and voice the character Blaze as one of the main characters was so amazing to me, and it still sticks with me to this day. He was in Bad Blood. There's a variety of small roles that he was in. The Sitter, Red Tails, which is the movie about the Tuskegee Airmen. He played himself in Luke Cage, amongst others. He was in Cayano, the series. He became a host called Drop the Mic. He's obviously, been in many other parts of. He voiced a character scripted for the Marvels. He appeared in Shaft. Like, this is an incredible acting career that Method Man has. He also was part of a documentary called The Show, and just so many things he's done with Marvel and Sirius XM, and He's hosted and produced The Wire at 20, an anniversary podcast that they did for HBO. He's completed the 13th season of The Mad Singer, The Stud Muffin. I saw this one very recently on I think it was on TikTok or it was on YouTube, and he's absolutely amazing. He's a father, married to his wife Tamika since 2001. So this is an amazing guy, and it's amazing that even one of his twin child, Cheyenne, but the other child's name is Raekwon. So yes, Raekwon, he named his child Raekwon. So you can see the lineage and the bondage between the two of them. So there's always been the things that are out there. And he's an opinion. There's he's had issues with Wendy Williams. He publicly criticized Diddy for creating the duets. It was almost felt like it's a cash grab. And then Biggie never worked with any of these artists, but Puffy took verses from Biggie and cross-referenced and ultimately created songs just to make more money. Obviously his conflict with Fox News, and again. So we look at his studio albums, and from Tikal 2000 or Tikal Zero, the prequel, 421, the Meth Lab 2 Sessions, the Meth Lab 3, the Rehab, and then the collaborations album, Blackout 1 and 2, Wu Massacre. And then, if you didn't know, and I kind of put this on an earlier podcast at the beginning of the year, as you really got cranked up in season 5, but it's called The Dirty P. He's doing a collaboration album with Havoc. So that is on the horizon, on top of another Wu-Tang album that is happening. So Meth has done so many features, and I'm going to just pull my list as I was looking at Method Man as an artist and just some of the works that he has been a part of. So I mentioned a few of them, 456, How High, amongst others, but I looked it up on Spotify, and I just look at where Method Man has also, essentially been a part of, and the list is unbelievable in terms of where he's been featured. So, hey, All Eyes on Me, Ready to Die, obviously. He's on Under Construction with Missy Elliott. They worked so well together. Miss E, So Addictive. He's done work with D'Angelo. He ended up on Born Again, Drew Hill, Mobb Deep, obviously all of the Wu-Tang pieces. He shows up on Simon Says, the remix. Collaborates obviously with I think on the Wu-Tang track with Logic. He does the hook for the Il Nana, which is Foxy Brown. So the list is absolutely crazy on the amount of songs that he's been on. And again, does tracks with DMX. He's shown up with EPMD as they've worked together. Shown up on Czarface. And then lots of stuff, obviously, with Redman. Done stuff on. He was on Ride or Die Volume 2, so the Rough Riders. Lots of stuff with Mary J. Blige. So been on Clue tapes, been on soundtracks, including Bulworth. So Method Man is one of the most accomplished artists we ever have. And I got a chance to meet him. So I will tell you, I'm at work. For those who know, I work retail. I'm in a mall. I'm about to leave for the day. Got to head to my basketball game. And I literally say bye to the team. And I turn and I see a gentleman walk right past me, taller than me. But all I really kind of took in was the beard. He was a tall gentleman in a gray tech fleece suit with headphones on, but he's talking on the speakerphone. And I saw the beard, and the Rolodex in my head immediately clicked. You know who this person is. And I looked closer, and it's like, it can't be. There's no way. But then he spoke, and I literally froze in my tracks. It was Method Man. Now, to give you some backstory, I have friends that work in another retail store that's part of the organization I work at, which is Foot Locker. They told me about a month ago when I was leaving for the day and going to go record a podcast at the now defunct Studio 185 that Method Man was in the mall and he was shopping. I literally dropped my stuff off and ran back to the mall. I looked for Method Man for like 20 minutes. He wasn't in the store. He wasn't in on any level. He had probably already gone for the day because he had made his purchase. So I missed him. It's like, this would have been the opportunity to ask Meth to be on my podcast. It would be an opportunity just to say hello, dap him up and say, I'm a big fan. Maybe I could get a picture. But that opportunity missed. And on this day, which was Wednesday, I have a second chance. So I patiently wait till he stops talking, till he needs some assistance. And then I look at him and it's like, hey, Meth, just want to say I'm a huge fan. I actually work here. I'm just about to leave. What were you looking for? Let us help you get what you need today. And say, I'm looking for this Yankee hat. And we don't have the hat that he wants. So it's like, hey, I know they have it at Foot Locker. I was there earlier today. Let's walk down the hallway. Or better yet, I'll walk with you if you want. And we'll make sure that you get what you need. And he says, cool. We walk out of the store. He's still on the phone for a little bit, but then he gets off the phone and we kind of just talk a little bit. Kind of talk about why he's in town. He's doing a movie. Found out later that Kelly Rowland is in the movie. So again, the other pieces that Method Man is involved in, including, now movie, TV, hosting stuff. Like it's quite an incredible list that this gentleman is involved in. Well, we get to the bottom. We get to where Kids Foot Locker is. We're at the Fork in Eaton Center at the south end. Right is Foot Locker, and I start to lean that way. And he says, oh, wait, hold on. I have a better idea. Lids is right there. I'm going to Lids. I say, but Matt, we said we're going to go to Foot Locker. So it's not like I can argue with him. I'm now registering in my head. Method Man wants to go to Lids, so we're going to Lids. So we go into Lids. The Lids people, sorry to knock you guys. You guys did not help him. I don't care if you didn't know who he was. You didn't help him. And then I end up finding the fitted hats. We start going through it, and then he can't remember the size. So it's like, hey, why don't we go for a snapback? So ultimately, we go to the snap. We find the one, got the apple on the side, and then he wants to get it customized for this person in his world that he gets it customized. So hopefully I'm not spoiling the surprise, but it's an amazing idea that he got it customized, and Foot Locker, we can't do it that way. So, hey, I dap him up. We talk about the Knicks. I'm wearing a Knicks hat and a Knicks jacket. This hat actually specifically. And then dap him up and I'm on my way. And then I run into someone I know in the hallway. So we end up talking. It's like, can you believe I just met Method Man? And everyone knows that I'm such a huge Wu-Tang fan. I think for months, almost years, I posted something Wu-Tang on Wu Wednesday on my story or on my timeline. So it was such a surreal moment for me. Of all the Wu-Tang members, I think the top three that I want to meet is Ray, Ghost, and Method Man. RZA has his own allure to me. But Method Man is, again, as I said earlier, is like the Michael Jackson of the clan. So to meet him, to talk to him was so special to me. And then I had my moment. And then I dap him up and then talk to my friend. My friend goes one way and I turn around and Method Man is like walking past and say, they're working on my hat. And I say, hey, Meth, thank you again. Appreciate the time. I got to head out. I got ball tonight. And my ball game didn't go very well from a statistical standpoint, me scoring, but I played defense and rebounded. But if you don't care, you don't care. We did win the game as we're playing in a new league. So all good. I head up the escalator. I get to the top. I'm about to push the elevator button and say, oh, I missed an opportunity. I missed an opportunity. It's like, I run this podcast. How the heck am I not going to ask Method Man to be honest? Like, but I got to go to ball. I need to get there early and get myself ready. But how many times am I going to get a chance to meet Method Man and talk to him? We already have a rapport. It's like, Lionel, you are the dude that shoots your shot all the time, so you're going to shoot your shot. I go back down 3 flights of stairs at Toronto Eaton Center. Sure enough, by the time I get to the bottom, Method Man is walking back because he's going back to pick up the hat now. It's like, hey, Meth, I know you're crazy busy. I know I had seen you. I heard you were in the mall, and that was the same day that you performed with Mary J. when she had her tour here in Toronto, and the stop was at the ACC. But I'm a podcast host. I run Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I would love for you to be a guest. And then I held my collective breath. Respectfully, Method Man told me, all due respect, my friend, I can't be on your podcast, but much love and respect and success to you on your podcast. It's just something I can't do right now. I didn't push. I didn't go any deeper. But I shot my shot, and I feel good that I at least took the opportunity to ask him. And hey, I've had other artists. I've had, I hope to have Smith & Wesson on one day. I've had OC. OC was the first rapper from the US that was on. Daniel was the first one from Canada. One day I hope to have Maestro Fresh West on this pod. If I could ever find Socrates, he would obviously be a logical choice. Same with Cardinal and Shaw Claire. But I also had Elda Sensei from the Artifacts on the pod. So it's not like rappers have never been on this podcast, but I was hoping for one of the biggest fish or one of the biggest incredible artists transcending across so many things to be on the pod. But unfortunately, he said no. So we keep it moving. But it doesn't stop me from celebrating my moment with Method Man, to celebrate that I got that sheet. And I would tell you, people say so often, don't meet your idols. They're going to be mean and nasty and ruin your impression. Method Man, honestly, has amplified what I believe he is, who he is as a man, as a father, as a husband, as an artist, as an actor. Like, he is absolutely incredible. And for all the times that I've been upset for him not being at a show because he's hustling and doing other projects, to meet him now after all of this, and we do have the Wu-Tang show here in Toronto. I think it's July 14th, and it's the final chamber. I will really appreciate Method Man even more now, knowing that he's here. We did see him back in, I think it was 2023 when they came with Nas and De La Soul, and obviously De La Soul had Trugoy no longer with them, and we had and who was it that filled? Oh, Talib Kweli filled in. So to see him finally in person, I hadn't seen him since I saw a show in Scarborough in like 1996 at Ember's banquet hall, which is such a random place to see a concert. But I ended up getting to see him and really getting an appreciation for how amazing, not just an artist and how he carries himself. And we know he's into fitness. He has an article in Men's Health. If you follow him, he has a whole clothing line to Cal Athletics. He's an amazing dude. And shout out to Method Man. I really appreciate the time that we had this week, and I'll never forget it. That's where I'm going to leave it today. Special moment with Meth this week. That is the story. People wanted to hear the story. This podcast is now over 30 minutes. There's no way I could have told this story. And it didn't take that long because I gave you the backstory, but that is my time with Method Man. So for Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life, I'm out. Have a great day.